If you walked into your local Walmart or Costco this past weekend, the shelves probably looked completely normal. The aisles were bright, the products were neatly faced, and the checkout lines moved at their usual pace. But if you know what to look for, the warning signs are already there. Most people haven't noticed the subtle changes happening in the back rooms of our major retailers. But inventory trackers and warehouse workers are quietly pointing out a phenomenon they're calling the phantom pallet issue. Pallets are arriving at distribution centers, but they are being broken down and shipped to stores at a much slower rate than usual. The shelves look full, but the backup inventory is quietly thinning out. Why is this happening right now, in the middle of a record-breaking July heatwave? And more importantly, what does this mean for your household budget before the summer ends? I've been reviewing the latest USDA crop progress reports, analyzing the recent Bureau of Labor Statistics Grocery Index updates, and listening closely to the carefully worded phrases used in recent retail earnings calls. The numbers tell a very different story than what we see on the shelves. Industry analysts are already seeing a convergence of weather events, shifting global trade policies, and quiet manufacturing cuts that are going to impact the price and availability of everyday foods. You are about to discover 10 specific foods that are quietly changing. Some are shrinking in size, some are creeping up in price, and others are facing supply disruptions that most shoppers are completely blind to. By the time we reach number 1, you will understand the hidden pattern connecting all of these changes, and more importantly, you will know exactly how to protect your family's food supply and your household budget. We are going to walk through what to buy, how much to get, and exactly how to store it. Let's get started. Number 10. Canned beans. Let's start with an observation that almost nobody is talking about, but if you've been buying canned beans for years, you might have felt it in your hand. The cans feel lighter. This isn't your imagination. We are seeing a massive wave of shrinkflation hitting the canned goods aisle, specifically with beans and legumes. For a long time, a standard can was 15 or 16 ounces. Now, many major brands have quietly shifted to 14.5 ounces, and some store brands are even testing 13-ounce sizes. The price on the shelf hasn't dropped to match the new weight. You are paying the same amount or sometimes more for noticeably less food. But the physical size of the can is only half the story. The real issue is the aluminum squeeze. The cost of aluminum for canning has remained stubbornly high due to global supply chain adjustments. Because manufacturers can't easily raise the price of a can of beans without shocking the consumer, they are reducing the volume inside. Why does this matter for your grocery budget? Because beans are a foundational staple for budget-conscious households. When you multiply a half-ounce loss across millions of cans, the retail price per ounce climbs significantly. If you wait until you actually need them, you will be paying a premium for less product. Here is your practical action. Stop buying the small single-serving cans. The shrinkflation impact is highest on the smaller sizes. Instead, look for the large family-sized cans, which are often still 28 ounces and haven't been shrunk yet. Even better, if your budget allows, transition to buying dry beans in bulk. A 1-pound bag of dry beans costs a fraction of the canned version, yields more than double the amount of food, and lasts indefinitely if kept dry. Store your dry beans in food-grade buckets with Gamma Seal lids and keep a few cans on hand for quick, no-cook meals. Number 9. Peanut butter. Moving down the aisle, we run into a product that is a staple in almost every American home, especially for those of us with grandchildren visiting. Peanut butter. A few weeks ago, a retiree in Ohio was doing her regular Costco run. She grabbed her usual multi-pack of large peanut butter jars, but when she got to the register, she realized the jars were physically shorter. The label was redesigned to make it less obvious, but the net weight had dropped by 2 ounces. When she asked a store employee about it, he quietly mentioned that they were getting a new shipment next week with yet another size change. This shopper behavior is reacting to a very real agricultural trend. The major peanut growing regions in the South, places like Georgia, Texas, and Alabama, have been dealing with severe, persistent heat and erratic rainfall patterns this growing season. Peanuts are a highly water-intensive crop, and the stress on the plants is affecting both the yield and the quality of the harvest. The USDA's latest crop reports indicate that acreage planted for peanuts has been struggling to keep up with domestic demand. We are seeing a growing concern that the upcoming harvest might not be as robust as previous years. When the supply of raw peanuts tightens, the processors pass those costs directly to the consumer. This matters because peanut butter is one of the most cost-effective sources of protein and healthy fats on the shelf. If prices spike in the late fall when the new harvest is processed, your household breakfast and lunch budgets will take a direct hit. Number 8. Pasta and crackers. Now, let's look at the dry goods section. You might think pasta and crackers are completely safe from supply issues. After all, wheat is grown all over the place, right? Here is a hidden fact that most shoppers don't know. Not all wheat is created equal. The wheat used to make bread is very different from the durum wheat used to make pasta and the specific blends used for crackers. While general wheat yields might look okay on the surface, the specific durum wheat crops required for high-quality pasta have been facing significant pressure. Shoppers have been quietly buying more pasta over the last year as a way to stretch their meat budgets. This increased consumer demand is colliding with a tightening supply of durum wheat. Industry analysts are pointing out that a few major milling companies handle the vast majority of this specific type of wheat. When one of those mills experiences a slowdown or a maintenance issue, the ripple effect is felt nationwide. This brings us to a noticeable change. You might not see empty shelves yet, but you will start seeing the prices of name-brand pastas creeping up, while the store brands slowly reduce the number of crackers in a family-sized box. The budget impact is subtle at first, but it compounds every time you restock. What happened next in the supply chain caught many experienced shoppers off guard. And it directly connects to the next item on our list. The changes we are seeing in dry goods are actually just a symptom of a much larger water issue affecting the entire country. Number 7. Canned tomatoes. Let's talk about canned tomatoes, tomato sauce, and tomato paste. If you make chili, spaghetti, or casseroles, this is a core ingredient in your pantry. A grocery manager in the Midwest recently pointed out that the backroom inventory for canned tomatoes has been arriving in smaller, more frequent batches rather than the usual massive bulk shipments. This distribution bottleneck is directly tied to what is happening in Central California. The vast majority of the tomatoes grown in the United States aren't the ones you eat fresh in a salad. They are processing tomatoes, grown specifically to be crushed, cooked down, and canned, and almost all of them are grown in California's Central Valley. This region has been facing severe, multi-year water allocation cuts. The farmers simply do not have the water rights to plant as many acres of processing tomatoes as they used to. The consequence is a slow but steady reduction in the national supply of canned tomatoes. The shelves still look normal because retailers are rationing the stock, but the wholesale prices have been climbing. If current trends continue, the cost of a simple jar of marinara sauce or a large can of crushed tomatoes is going to become a significant line item on your grocery receipt. Here is why this matters for your household. Tomatoes are the base of hundreds of budget-friendly meals. When the price of canned tomatoes doubles, the cost of your homemade meals doubles with it. Your action plan: start rotating your canned tomato stock. Buy the large 28-ounce cans or the stacked 10 cans if you have access to a restaurant supply store. Store them in a cool, dark basement or pantry. Never store canned goods in a hot garage, as the heat will degrade the quality and the acidity can eventually break down the can lining. Use the first-in, first-out method. Eat the oldest cans first and replace them with new ones. This ensures you always have a fresh supply without waste. Number 6. Cooking oil. If you've been to the store recently, You might have noticed that the cooking oil aisle looks a bit rearranged. The brands are shifting, the sizes are changing, and the prices are fluctuating wildly. This brings us back to that phantom pallet issue we mentioned at the beginning. The distribution centers are struggling to keep a consistent flow of cooking oils because the global seed supply is in a state of transition. For years, the US relied heavily on soybean oil and sunflower oil, but global supply disruptions, particularly involving sunflower oil from Eastern Europe, forced manufacturers to scramble for alternatives. Now you are seeing a massive shift toward canola oil, corn oil, and even palm oil blends. The question is, why does this matter to you? Because when manufacturers switch the base oil they use, it creates temporary shortages of the old oils while the new ones are still ramping up production. This causes price spikes and intermittent outages of your preferred brand. The revelation here is that cooking oil is not just a luxury, it is a critical source of dietary fat and calories. And it is essential for cooking almost everything else in your pantry. If you run out of cooking oil, you can't fry your eggs, you can't bake your bread, and you can't properly prepare your canned vegetables. Your practical action is to secure your cooking oil supply now. Don't just buy the small bottles, look for the large 1-gallon jugs of vegetable or canola oil. Oil has a shelf life, and it can go rancid if exposed to heat and light. Store your backup gallons in a cool, dark place. If you want a longer-term solution, look into buying coconut oil or ghee. Coconut oil is highly stable and can last for years without refrigeration, making it an excellent calorie-dense backup for your prepper pantry. The pattern becomes much clearer when you look at how global events are impacting the ocean. The next item reveals why inventory trackers are paying very close attention to the seafood section. Number 5. Canned tuna. Let's move to the seafood aisle, specifically canned tuna. This is a historical example of how fragile our food supply can be. Back in the late 2000s and early 2010s, there were massive, widely reported shortages of canned tuna. People thought it was a temporary blip, but it was actually a warning sign of what happens when ocean conditions change. Today, we are seeing a very similar trend unfolding. The Pacific Ocean temperatures have been unusually warm, which is altering the migration patterns of skipjack and yellowfin tuna. The fishing fleets are having to travel further and burn more fuel to catch the same amount of fish. At the same time, we are seeing a shifting landscape of import tariffs and trade agreements. The U.S. imports the vast majority of the tuna it consumes, and when trade policies shift, the cost of importing that tuna goes up immediately. The future risk here is a protein paradox. Shoppers assume that because it comes in a can, it's cheap and abundant. But as the cost of catching and importing fish rises, canned tuna transitions from a budget staple to a premium item. We are already seeing the pouches becoming significantly more expensive than the cans. And the cans themselves are slowly shrinking in weight. Why this matters to your household is simple. Canned tuna is one of the easiest, most accessible sources of lean protein that requires zero refrigeration and zero cooking. It is a critical food security item. Number 4. Honey. Now, let's look at something sweet. Honey, it's a natural sweetener, a soothing remedy for a sore throat, and an incredible survival food. But the honey you are buying might not be what you think it is. If you compare the price of a bottle of cheap imported honey at a big box store to the price of local raw honey from a farmer's market, the price difference is massive. The cheap honey is often a fraction of the cost. But here is the hidden cause. The global bee population is under immense stress. Colony losses over the winter have been consistently high, limiting the domestic honey supply. To meet consumer demand and keep prices low, large commercial brands often ultra-filter imported honey. This process removes the pollen, which makes it impossible to trace where the honey actually came from. Industry investigations have frequently found that much of this ultra-filtered cheap honey is actually adulterated cut with cheap rice syrup or corn syrup. You aren't buying pure honey, you're buying expensive, flavored sugar water. The consequence of this quiet reformulation is that you are losing the unique nutritional and medicinal benefits of real honey while paying a premium for a fake product. Real raw honey never expires. Archaeologists have found pots of honey in ancient Egyptian tombs that are thousands of years old and still perfectly edible. It is the ultimate survival food. We are now entering the final stretch of our countdown. The items we are about to cover are the ones that experienced preppers and smart shoppers are quietly securing before the rest of the public catches on. The stakes are rising, and the window to act at current prices is closing. Number 3. Powdered milk. Let's talk about the dairy aisle. If you've noticed that the dairy section seems to be getting smaller or that the prices for milk, cheese, and butter are constantly fluctuating, you are not alone. This is driven by a massive consolidation in the dairy farming industry. Small and medium-sized dairy farms are quietly going out of business, sold off to massive corporate operations. This shelf space shrink at the farm level means that the overall supply of fluid milk is becoming more fragile. When a major processing plant has an issue, or when demand spikes during a holiday, the price of liquid milk skyrockets. And stores occasionally limit how many gallons you can buy, but there is a solution that most shoppers completely ignore: powdered milk. Specifically, non-fat dry milk. Many people turn their noses up at powdered milk because they remember the taste of the reconstituted milk from their childhood. But modern manufacturing has improved the taste significantly. More importantly, non-fat dry milk is an incredible tool for household budgeting and preparedness. You don't just have to drink it. It is an essential baking ingredient, a way to add protein and calcium to oatmeal or smoothies, and a crucial backup if the fresh milk supply is disrupted. Your action plan: go to the baking aisle or the camping aisle and buy boxes of non-fat dry milk. For long-term storage, look for #10 cans of instant non-fat dry milk. These cans are sealed with nitrogen flushing to remove oxygen, and they can last for 10 to 20 years on the shelf. Once you open a can, keep the powder in the refrigerator or freezer to extend its shelf life and use it within a few months. It is a cheap, highly efficient way to insure your family against dairy price spikes. Number 2. White rice. We are down to number 2. This is a critical purchasing decision that affects almost every household in America. White rice. It seems like the most basic, abundant food on the planet. But a look at the global grain market tells a very different story. Rice is highly sensitive to water availability, and major rice-growing regions around the world are facing severe water restrictions. When water is scarce, governments prioritize drinking water and high-value crops over rice. Furthermore, we are seeing a growing trend of export restrictions. When a major rice-producing country faces a poor harvest due to weather events, they immediately ban or restrict the export of rice to protect their own citizens. This import tariff shift and export ban dynamic causes immediate shockwaves in the global market. Even though the U.S. grows a lot of rice, the global price dictates the domestic price. When the global price goes up, the price of the rice at your local Walmart goes up with it. Why this matters to your household budget is that rice is the ultimate caloric foundation. It is cheap, it fills you up, and it stretches almost any meal. If the price of a 5-pound bag of rice doubles, it puts immense pressure on your monthly food budget, especially if you are relying on rice and beans as a primary protein source. Here is your decision guide. Do not buy the small 1-pound boxes of instant or flavored rice. The cost per ounce is terrible, and the flavoring packets add unnecessary sodium and preservatives. Buy the large 10-pound or 20-pound bags of plain long-grain white rice. For long-term storage, you must protect it from moisture and pests. Buy food-grade 5-gallon buckets, line them with thick mylar bags, pour in the rice. Add an oxygen absorber and seal the mylar bag with a clothes iron or a hair straightener. Then, put the lid on the bucket. Stored this way, white rice will remain perfectly edible and nutritious for 25 to 30 years. It is the single best investment you can make for your family's long-term food security. Number 1. Canned meats and shelf-stable proteins. This brings us to number 1. The most important item you need to stock up on before the summer ends. Canned meats and shelf-stable proteins. Things like canned chicken, Spam, canned chili, corned beef, and Vienna sausages. This is the ultimate buffer against a changing food supply. Here is the hidden fact. The meat industry is facing a perfect storm of challenges. We have seen the closure and consolidation of major meat processing plants. We have rising labor costs, strict new environmental regulations, and the ongoing impact of avian and swine flu on livestock populations. When fresh meat prices spike, shoppers flock to the store to buy whatever is on sale, which drains the inventory of shelf-stable proteins. But here is the reality that industry analysts are watching closely. Fresh meat prices might eventually come down when the supply chain adjusts, but the cost of processing, canning, and distributing shelf-stable proteins is only going up. This is the protein paradox we touched on earlier. Protein is the most expensive macronutrient to acquire. If you lose your job, or if your household budget gets squeezed by inflation, you will cut back on fresh steaks and chicken breasts. But you will still need protein to stay healthy and keep your family fed. Canned meats provide that essential protein without the need for refrigeration, without the risk of spoiling during a power outage, and at a fraction of the cost of fresh meat. Your practical action is to build a diverse rotation of canned meats. Don't just buy one type. Get canned chicken breast for sandwiches and casseroles. Get Spam or canned pork luncheon meat for high-calorie, high-fat meals that taste great fried up with rice. Get canned chili and beef stew for quick, heat-and-eat dinners. Check the cans for dents or rust. Store them in a cool, dry place, organized by type and date. Rotate them regularly. Canned meats generally have a shelf life of 2 to 5 years, but they often remain safe to eat well beyond that if the can remains intact. This is your ultimate safety net when the fresh meat aisle is empty or when the prices are simply too high to justify. Your pantry full of canned proteins will be the difference between stress and peace of mind. What to do this week? Your buying strategy. Now that we've uncovered these 10 items, you might be feeling the urge to run out and buy everything on this list today. But smart preparedness is about strategy, not impulse. We want to protect your household budget while securing your food supply. Here is a practical 3-week action plan. Week 1, the Pantry Foundation this week. Focus on the dry, shelf-stable carbohydrates. Go to Walmart or Costco and buy your white rice, dry beans, pasta, and crackers. Stick to your normal grocery budget, but redirect the money you would have spent on expensive, processed convenience foods toward these bulk staples. Put them in their long-term storage buckets and Mylar bags this weekend. This secures your caloric foundation for very little money. Week 2, proteins and fats next week. Shift your focus to the proteins and fats. This is where you will spend a bit more, so look for sales. Buy your canned tuna, canned chicken, peanut butter, and cooking oil. If you see a good deal on canned tomatoes or Spam, pick up a few extra. This week is about ensuring you have the building blocks for actual nutritious meals, not just empty calories. Week 3. Comfort and rotation in the final week. Focus on the items that make meals enjoyable and provide essential nutrients. Buy your local honey, your powdered milk, and any specific spices or seasonings you need to make your bulk rice and beans taste great. This is also the week to organize your pantry. Label everything with the date you bought it. Set up your first in, first out system. By spreading your purchases over 3 weeks, you avoid blowing your entire budget in one trip. You take advantage of different weekly sales cycles, and you avoid drawing attention to yourself by buying out the shelves. You are being smart, quiet, and strategic. When you look at all 10 of these items together, a larger pattern emerges. The changes we are seeing in the sizes of canned beans, the shifting types of cooking oil, the consolidation of dairy farms, and the global pressures on white rice are not isolated incidents. They are connected pieces of a much larger puzzle. The average shopper misses these connections because they only look at the price tag on the shelf today. They don't look at the water allocations in California, the ocean temperatures in the Pacific, or the milling consolidations in the Midwest. They react to shortages after they happen rather than preparing for them before they arrive. But you are no longer the average shopper. You now understand that the food supply is a complex, fragile system that is quietly under pressure. You know that inflation isn't just about things costing more, it's about getting less for the same money. You understand that preparation is not about living in fear, it is about taking control. When you take small, practical actions today, buying an extra bag of rice, storing a few extra cans of tomatoes, learning how to seal mylar bags, you are buying yourself peace of mind. You are ensuring that when the prices inevitably rise, or when the supply chains experience another unexpected bottleneck, your family will not feel the impact. You are stepping out of the cycle of reaction and into a position of control. You are better informed. You know what to watch for. And most importantly, you know exactly how to make smarter shopping decisions that protect your household budget and your family's food security. I want to hear from you. Which of these 10 items surprised you the most? Have you already noticed the shrinkflation on canned beans or the changing sizes of peanut butter at your local store? What are you going to stock up on first this week? Drop your thoughts, your observations, and your strategies in the comments below. I read as many as I can, and your insights help other shoppers stay ahead of the curve. If you found this information valuable, make sure you save this video and share it with a friend or family member who needs to hear it. Stay smart, stay prepared, and I will see you in the next video.